question how do we know we are on the right path? There are so many paths, so many gurus, and gave a very good answer, and that actually for a regular person he can't really know, because the fact is that the conditioned soul has so many defects, the imperfect senses, and a very poor quality of discrimination. But if one can find some persons who are actually following a certain path and a certain spiritual master, and you see that their lives are becoming successful, and that they're becoming very, very blissful in spiritual life, then one can deduce that actually there's something there. So this is the process. I know, I just wanted to reinforce this because in my own case, when I was a college student way back in 1971, and that's when I first met the devotees, and they were so enthusiastic that it was unbelievable. I remember Vishnu Maharaja was there in Detroit, Michigan. The temple was very small, and the devotees would go out in the streets chanting the holy name, and half of them would distribute Back to Godhead magazine, collect quarters. But they were always talking about how so excited that Srila Prabhupada was coming to Detroit for the first time, and I didn't know what was going on, but just by their enthusiasm, even without meeting Srila Prabhupada, I knew that this was the path for me, just by their association. So even without meeting Srila Prabhupada, before that, just by hearing about him, then I knew that this was, there was nothing else that I wanted to do. I didn't know that he would accept me, of course, but I knew that he would be my spiritual master. And so the devotees would chant all day, and very, very blissful. And so for a person for a person just a casual observer, he may think that this is just some process, some sentimental process, but actually there's deep philosophy behind this chanting of the holy name and this process of bhakti yoga. I was remembering this verse that I ran across from the Padma Purana, where Sri Krishna tells Narada that, "Oh Narada, I am not present in Vaikuntha, nor am I present in the heart of the yogis, but I am present wherever my devotees are chanting my holy names." So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emphasized this himself to all the devotees when they would come to hear him in Nilachala, to take this process and wherever you are, band together like this and chant Krishna's name, and this will make your life sublime and happy. This is why we are here, and it's always good to know the reasons why we are doing everything. So, Panchakalpa
Can I sit? If you like, as long as you speak loud enough so everyone can hear you.
Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmani Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayani Purnamidam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
First of all, I offer my humble obeisances to our spiritual master, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and to our whole Guru Varga, especially Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who's here with us in a way that is very easy to see. And to all of the devotees, all the Vaishnavas, especially Srila Bhaktivedanta Vishnu Maharaja. I want to very briefly talk about Sri Vigraha and Sri Harinam. These are two incarnations of Krishna. Can you hear me, everybody? I'll talk louder. However go. I'm going to very quickly touch on the topics of Sri Vigraha and Sri Harinam. These are both incarnations of Krishna. And when I say incarnations, I mean not incarnations. I mean directly Krishna. So, first off, Sri Vigraha. Where's Raghunath Prabhu?
He's there.
Raghunath Prabhu?
He's on the phone.
Oh, sorry, never mind. These Thakurji Gurudev installed? Is it correct? Yes?
Well, Tirtha Maharaj, when he came, like 3-4 years ago, he asked me the same thing. And I told him that officially, Srila Gurudev was supposed to do actually last time he came, but because he became sick, he didn't do. But he said no problem because the installation is in the heart of the worshipper. If you do it with love and affection, then the installation is done in the heart of the worshipper. That's what Tirtha Maharaj told us. And officially hasn't been done yet.
But still installed, because also Gurudev came, Gurudev taking darshan, offering flowers, installation automatic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And regular worshiping every day, as you know.
Yeah. Is installed.
So yeah, the answer is yes, absolutely. Srila Gurudev came and saw them and talked to them, probably, right? Okay, so then they're there. Actually, I've heard, this is not from Shastra any Shastra I know, but I've heard some Vaishnavas say there's two ways deities become installed. Is this correct? One is through the Mahabhagava invites them. So they're here, number one. Number two is through worship for a long time. Then the deity will come there because they're receiving they're very famous old deities, then it also works. So you got two accounts here.
They get a lot of love. So
they get a lot of love there. So they come, It's either a lot of love really quickly or a lot of love over a long period of time. Mahabhagavad gives a lot of love really quickly. This is just one little piece of speculation, but I'm going to tell it anyway because it's really interesting. It has to do with the word Vigraha in Sanskrit. If you look up Vigraha for like Money or Williams, one of the meanings is in grammar. When you break a word down into its constituent parts, each of those parts has its own meaning. And when you add those meanings together, in Sanskrit, not every language, but when you add the parts together, then the total meaning is just the logical conclusion of adding those smaller meanings together. And when you get, this is called graha, I think. So the process of vigraha is to break it down to the last one. The last meaning. You can't split it in half anymore. So it occurred to me, and again this is speculation, that this idea of finding the last part where it can't be divided anymore is a very nice explanation of Vigraha. Because Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha. If you know this verse, say it with me. How does it start? Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvadharma. That's him. And so this word Vigraha, Satchidananda Vigraha, it means he's the essence, the essential form of Satchidananda. You can't make it into you can't take Krishna and say, well, there's Krishna's qualities, and then there's Krishna's pastimes, and there's Krishna's name, and then there's Krishna's form, and there's Krishna's, lotus feet and his jewelry, and then there's Krishna's lotus eyes and his beautiful face. These are not all separate from each other. You can't break them into pieces like that. It's not possible. Krishna, in his beauty, his form, his beautiful qualities. Like, what's his best quality? Who knows? There's really just one answer. Okay.
It's his beauty, his root.
That's in the 6. How's it go, the verse? Shri
Aishwarya Samakrasya.
Yeah, in that one, Shri is the Anga, but I'm talking about Bhakta Vatsalya. I asked Gurudev once, I said, what's Gurudev? Gurudev, I said, what's Krishna's best quality? And he said, Bhakta Vatsalya. He said,
what is that?
Who knows what Bhakta Vatsalya means? This is really a question, someone answer.
Love for the devotees.
Say?
Love for the devotees.
Yeah. Vatsalya, who knows what Vatsalya, like Vatsalya Ras, what does that mean?
Parental love.
Yeah, parent, mood of a parent. So what is it like? Here's a really good example. What does a mommy lion do if you try and kill her cub?
He kills you.
It's a bad idea to even try, right? So this is like Nrsimha Bhagavan. Nrsimha Dev is the embodiment of this Vatsalya mood. He really shows it. When someone tried to hurt Prahlad Maharaj, he always protected Prahlad Maharaj, and in the end, he couldn't take it anymore, and he appeared and he ripped that person inside out, right? So don't mess with the children of God. He gets really mad. So this quality, Bhakti Vatsalya, that's one form of it, but the real form of it is he will never, ever, ever give up on you. Doesn't matter if you make aparad, anything, he will never give up on you. If you make aparad, he might have to put you into a bad situation for a while so you learn. But why is he putting you into a bad situation? It's like time out. Seriously. Literally. So the child has to learn. Don't do that behavior. It's not going to get you happiness. And Krishna wants us to be happy. When we do any bit of surrender to Krishna, then for the rest of our life, for the rest of however many lives we spend in this world, everything he's doing, not even after surrender, also before surrender, he's just trying to save us. He's trying to make us happy. We're his parts. We're his babies. All he wants is for us to see his beauty. He knows how beautiful he is. It's not any secret to him. He came as Mahaprabhu just so he could see how beautiful he was. And Krishna knows we'll never ever be happy unless we get to see how beautiful he is. Because we're designed like that. That's all we want. And he knows that. So he's not being arrogant or something. He's being deeply humble. He's saying, you can't find what you're looking for anywhere else. Come home. Play with me. So what does he do? Nobody's paying attention. He's like, oh, they're so stupid. What do I do? So he comes in a million ways, but two very powerful ways. One is his Sri Vigraha. He comes as this form, and like we talked about earlier, especially when the Mahabhagavat looks and sees them. Who knows that story of Madan Gopal, right? And the lady is brushing her teeth. Madan Mohan, she was Sanatana Goswami's Thakurji. She's brushing her teeth and stirring with the same stick. And outside, her two boys are playing. And Srila Sanatana Goswami comes on the scene, and one boy won the fight, the contest, I think. And so Madan Mohan was supposed to carry him on his shoulders, but he's a brat, so he ran away. And then the boy's chasing after him. He's like, no, you have to. And they're chasing, they're playing like boys, they're best friends. And then Madan Mohan runs up onto the altar, goes like this, and doesn't move. And the other boy's like, oh! Tomorrow morning. And then Srila Sanatana Goswami's looking at this lady brushing her teeth with a stick for cooking for God. This won't do. So he went to the lady, you can't do this. That's Madan Mohan. Before you cook for him, you have to do bathing and all the proper rituals of a chaste grihastha lady, and you brush your teeth way before you come to the cooking part. And so she's like, yes, Babaji, because Srila Sanatana Goswami was famous, really, really the highest class devotee. So then the next day, he came back, and that morning she had spent like 2 hours doing all the rituals. And Madan Mohan and the other boy were both tugging on her sari, saying, Maya, I'm so hungry, what are you doing? Feed me. And then she was like, I can't, first I have to do all these rituals. And Srila Sanatana Goswami was like, I'm so sorry, never mind, you were perfect before, go back to what you're doing. And so she did. But then when he was leaving, Madan Mohan said, I want to come with you. And he said, I don't even have a way to cook for you. If I do, it'll be these dry dough balls that I make in the fire. Madhava Mohan was like, I don't care, I want to come with you. He loved his devotees, Srila Sanatana Goswami, so much. He doesn't care for anything else. He's just eating that love. So he went with him, and then he made that Madhava Mohan Mandir. But my point in telling this story is, you might think, you're looking at Krishna and Radharani, or I might think, he can't come down and play right now. Radharani can't come down. Maybe I'm thinking like this. Where are those two little girls? They were playing that clapping game earlier. So this story of Madhava Mohan was just playing games like that. Why can't Radharani come down and play the game like that? And the answer is she can. But if they did that the first day, then maybe our heart's not ready for another baby. Our heart's not ready to take care of them and to give them that full love. So they don't want to burden us. Because if they did that and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, just stay here, I gotta go to work. You take care of yourself during the day. Then we would be making some offense to them. So they're protecting us from this offense because we don't know how to take care of them in that form. Srila Sanatana Goswami comes, or this lady who knows how to take care of them, who's full 150% of her love and energy is for Madhava Mohan. Srila Sanatana Goswami is the same way. So he'll come and play. He'll dance and sing. And they can do that also. Especially for a Kanishta, we see stone. For a Madhyamadikari, we come and we see, there's Radha and Krishna, and we're like, why aren't you moving, guys? But they'll talk to you at that stage. But an Uttamadikari, like Gurudev, when he comes and sees them, they're like, hey, and they say his name, we're here, what's up, and they're talking to each other, and they're moving. He sees that. Now don't think I'm exaggerating. Because what we see in this world, our perception of this world, is entirely orchestrated by Krishna, super subject. Srila Bhakti-Raksha Srila Goswami Maharaj explains this beautifully. We're hypnotized by his energy. So we think we're seeing this objective world, but really what we're seeing is his hypnotism on us. He's watching us and making us see a certain thing. This is all Paramatma. It's all trillions of his incarnations showing us a certain feature. In a second, he can show himself to one of us and not all of us. Gurudev can be playing with them in Goloka Vrindavan, and that's not fake. It's not a hallucination. That's the real world. This is like this embryonic phase we're in this world, where we're pretending that nothing is really Krishna because we can't handle it. But for the Uttama Mahabhagavad, he only sees Radharani and Krishna, wherever he looks. Okay, so this is one incarnation. Then the next one is, how do you get to that stage? So he comes as Harinam Japa. And I'm going to finish really quickly here. So I just wanted to touch one point of Harinam Japa. Again with language. When I say a word, watch this. Hey Lakshman Prabhu. Yeah. Hey, raise your hand. So see how these words have so much power. So much power. These are just mundane words. Lakshman's not a mundane word, but if anyone else's name outside, if I knew a guy on the street, his name was Bob, and I was like, Bob! I'd be like, hey, So I'm using a word and I'm getting your attention. And then I'm saying, raise your hand. And that idea in my mind, raise your hand, is going across the space, is going into your mind, and you're thinking, raise my hand, and like you're my friend, so you're like, it's interesting, it's experiments, you're like, okay. And you move the energy like this. Big long conversation about how that happens. But anyway. So this is just English. But to speak of Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, the word and the object share a deeper, subtler reality. Like Om, Omkar, is this Pranava, Lord Brahma. He says Om with such perfect precision that when he says Om, all of the planetary systems manifest as a byproduct of his perfection of that mantra. So, like Srimadvacharya, for example, several hundred years ago, he could say a mantra and make a seed grow in his palm into a plant and then plant it. Right? So there are mantras for starting fire. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada predicted in this generation, this third generation, the babies being born now, some of them will be able to start fire by mantra. We know you can start fire by chi, but I've seen that on YouTube. But starting it by mantra is even more difficult because you're going to an even subtler level. But it's absolutely possible because you're causing vibrations on a subtler plane by embedding a deep meaning into those sounds. It's not just the sound, it's the deep meaning coming from it. So then the next stage is Shabda Brahman, which is way more subtle. It's absolute Shabda Brahman. Shabda Brahman means spiritual sound or spiritual word. And when Gurudev speaks Harikatha, every word from the beginning to the end is Shabda Brahman. And when Gurudev chats with you about your family and your children and how are they doing and are you still sick, every word from beginning to end is Shabda Brahman. And he's revealing the absolute truth by that. But that's not the topic I want to get into. I want to talk about Harinam. So when Gurudev says Hare or Krishna, it's not that that's a word that reminds you of Radharani and Krishna. Like when I said Lakshman and it reminded your brain of you, or when I said raise your hand and it reminded your brain of some activities. When Gurudev says Hare Krishna, he's not reminding you of Radharani and Krishna. He's bringing them into your heart. Literally. Their Namrup Guna and Lila, because they're absolute, are non-different. So that deepest meaning, the spiritual world, I said last night, there's 5 kinds of rasa, 5 ingredients of rasa, Panchrasa Samagri. Sthayi Bhav, Vibhav, Satvik Bhav, Sanchari Bhav, and Anubhav. These 5 kinds of bhav are all what? They're all emotion, they're all meaning, they're all meaningful. They're actually the essence of meaning. Then the forms we see are like in this world, they're the symptoms of meaning. So when you go to the deepest level of this Shabda Brahman and you can say Hare Krishna and have it actually be Hare Krishna, this is really hard to talk about. What I'm trying to say is when you chant Harinam, when you're saying Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you just saying some words? Who are you saying it to?
God.
And this is the trippy part. You're saying Harinam for who? Who are you chanting Harinam for? You could say Gurudev, but where's Gurudev? What does he want? What does Gurudev want? Gurudev wants Radharani and Krishna to be happy. So if you want to serve Gurudev, and he asks you to chant Harinam to make Radharani and Krishna happy, you're chanting Harinam for Harinam. And he's not somewhere else. Just like they're not somewhere else, they're here and they're listening to you. So when you chant Harinam, Hare Krishna, you're saying Hare to Hare. And you're saying Krishna to Krishna. And you're saying Rama to Rama. And if you read the commentaries that our acharyas have written on the Mahamantra, it's painfully deep. It's agonizingly beautiful. So when you're saying this mantra, you need to go there. We need to go into that pastime. We need to go into what are they trying to do? What do they want? And offer that to them through the mantra. And it's very broad. So at different stages, like we can think of, Mahaprabhu especially. If we think of Mahaprabhu's pastimes especially, how he would chant the Mahamantra. And this Mahamantra is his body. Just like that's his body. When I chant Hare Krishna properly, that will be Mahaprabhu's body. He's Radharani and Krishna combined. He's there. So when you say Hare Krishna, and you chant this mantra, you're spending time with him. So don't neglect him. It's kind of scary. Wake up. Mahaprabhu's here, right? That's what Gurudev gave us. He didn't give us some words to practice so that we would later find Mahaprabhu. He gave us Mahaprabhu. He gave us Bhakti Lata Beach. He gave us devotion and the personality that we have devotion to. And when we chant, because we're Gurudev's disciples, or because we're in this very, very intimate family, we're connected so closely, when we chant, they come. Every time. But when we chant and we're like spacing out, thinking of something else, I'm preaching to myself here, by the way, not you guys. I need to tell myself this. When we chant and they come and we're like spaced out, thinking about something else, that's so mean. They're so beautiful. If we look, we should why would we think about anything else? So it's hard because we're so covered. I'm going to stop, but I want everyone to chant. Do we know the first verse of Shikshastikam? Can we chant together? And then the second verse also. And the third one. Then we'll stop. Okay. Cheto darpanam arjanam bhavamahata nirvapanam Shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam Vidyavadu jivanam Samarna snapana Anandam Budivardhanam Paripalam
Purnamridasadanam Sarvatmasnaparam. Am I messing up?
I don't know, sorry.
I think I'm getting it right. Sarvatmasnaparam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Namakari Bahudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pitani Amita Smarane Nakala Etadrisha Tava Kripa Bhagavan Manapi Durdaiva Midrishaya Jananuragan Chanarapi Sunichena Taroravi Sahishnura Amanina Manadina Kirtaniya Sadavari.
Sorry about that. Straightened out. So that was
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangalangayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarine Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambara Dijavaro Yuga Dharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Anga Shamalim Chata Virabito Mandi Kritendi Varam Jagdam Jagurarochi Samvidadatam Pattam Barasya Shriyam Vrindaranya Vilasinam Vridilasatama Viramodaram Radha Skanda Niveshito Jolabhujam Dayem Damodaram Shama Sundara Shikanda Shekara Smerahasya Murali Manohara Radhikara Sikamam Kripanidhe Swapriya Charana Kinkarim Kuru Tavai Vasmi Najivami Toya Vina Iti Vidyaya Radhetam Naimama Charanantike Hoya Chena Hoya Bena Prabhurjata Das Savara Charana Vandadante Korigash Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, offer my respectful obeisances unto our most beloved Gurudev, Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, for His mercy who assembled here today to hear and share some Harikatha and Kirtan and Prasadam and Sadhusanga. And offer my respectful obeisances unto Vishupara Siddharasa, Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the whole Guru Varga, cyclic succession, all Vaishnavas of the past, present, and future, and especially everyone here today. He spoke nicely, didn't he? It was really sweet. Now, he was saying so many nice things, I kind of didn't want him to stop, but anyway, now you're stuck with me. But just a few things when he was speaking that came to mind that I thought I just had to say because it was on subject matter. When he was speaking about the power of sound and how sound affects the elements around, how when mantras chanted properly can actually affect the different things that are happening in nature. I've seen it. I've seen it in Bengal a lot of times. One of my friends, his arm, I've told this here before, I thought it was so cool. My arm, his friend broke. A friend of my arm broke. My friend broke his arm. He fell off a bicycle in Gurukul in Mayapur, in Bengal, and his arm was completely broken. And they brought him to the tantrics. They're like the voodoo people in Bengal. They're pretty gnarly. They're pretty. You don't want to mess with them, to say the least. But they can do some good stuff too, like fix his arm. So they tied a bag of rice around the arm and they chanted some mantras. And in 24 hours, the bone healed completely. Completely. I could probably hook you up. His name's Leela if you want to research him. From Bengal, he broke his arm. And also, but then because it was in a Bengali village in a mud hut, the arm was they healed it in the wrong place and they had to re-break it with no anesthetic and put it back in. No. But that's the power of mantra. Yeah. I remember talking to him before, and I was like, "You're gonna have him break your arm?" He's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Why don't you go to the hospital? Have them break it, and then do the mantra." Like, and I asked him which one hurt more, the first time or the second time. He said the second time. So you just have to watch it anyway. But that was the point. The point is that mantras are really powerful. It can heal bone in 24 hours. Also in Bengal, I grew up in Bengal in the villages. If you get bitten by a snake, they didn't say, okay, do this first aid thing or call the ambulance. They said, no, we're going to bring them to the tantrics. And if bitten by a cobra, then they'll be able to chant some mantras and pull the poison out of the body. And one devotee, he may have come here, Dinanath, he lived in China. Gurudev used to call him Bengali Baba, a really, really good cook. But he used to travel with Gurudev sometime. When I first went to Mayapur, he was bitten by, I don't know if it was a cobra or, anyway, some bat snake. And they brought him to the tantric, chanted mantras, and pulled all the black poison out with the power of mantra. So when we speak about, okay, these power of mantra, of Hare Krishna, and these mantras, how powerful they are, sometimes I think in the Western culture it can sound, okay, that's mythological, or maybe that's something in the future if you go to that. But for a lot of people, it's an everyday phenomena, the fact of how sound vibration can affect the elements. In one angle of vision, you can say the mantra that he chanted, Lakshman, raise your hand. It's a very simple mantra, he just made it up. There's no integral relationship with the universe and the structure of existence or anything in there. It was just a simple thing, but that sound vibration was able to affect the material elements around. So don't underestimate the power of mantra. We see how all the universe was created, like he explained, was through mantra, through the sound vibration. Everything was created by the sound vibration. Also, some people, like I do some healing modalities and stuff, also there's certain mantras in there that can fix diseases. I do sometimes. I don't do to anyone, but sometimes. So mantra is very powerful. But when we speak about the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it's even much more powerful. It's so powerful. It's known as the Mahamantra. The Mahamantra, like there's other mantras, they have certain power for being able to do things. The Mahamantra means it's the super duper mantra, or the biggest, bestest mantra. That mantra is so powerful that even God is bound by the power of that mantra. Because if that mantra is chanted properly, it's the same as God. But even Gurudev says it's more powerful than God. Like what he was trying to explain, what he was explaining before was Nam Nami Aved. Us, when you say my name Vishnu Maharaja, Vishnu Swami, and me, there's a bit of a difference in my identity, my separation. But God is Krishna. A name of God is not Krishna. Krishna and God is the same. So if we can chant mantra properly with that love, with that relationship, and utter that pure sound vibration, which he was explaining, which is Shabda Brahman. There's different types of sound vibrations, different dimensions and levels of depth. But if you can chant the mantra properly, for real, with the right emotion, then God is controlled. God will come immediately. I remember when in Mathura, that's India, our monastery, the temple there where we stay. And one boy, he brought a book and he was reading about the experience of the sadhak, or the practitioner of bhakti, the follower on this path, the first time when they say the mantra properly. The first time when chanting Mahamantra, what happens? Because Krishna's name is non-different, so Krishna manifests forward in front of them. But at that time, it's too much for the senses and the body to be able to assimilate all of that in one go. Like when Srimati Radhika, Eto Rup Nainena Dhore. Srimati Radhika, a beautiful song, Kanai Prabhu, god brother of Srila Gurudev, would sing the song and be crying and crying. How when the gopis, they see one small part of Krishna's body, just his toe, or just one small thing, there's so much beauty because it's the source of all beauty and all sweetness that they're not able to look at the whole Krishna. They only look at his toe, like, oh my gosh, and get completely infatuated in love. And then they look at his hand, and then that's so beautiful and it's so attractive that they can't look at the whole body of Shri Krishna because it's way too much to assimilate and way too much to digest. Or like Srila Gurudev in Italy, he was explaining this verse by Rupa Goswami, Tunde Tundavali, how do you say? Tundavali Karna Koda Kanamini Vitayate. Says that I wish I had millions and millions of tongues and millions of mouths just so I could taste the sweetness that exists inside these two words, Hare and Krishna. Or even just Krishna, 2 syllables. Inside that sweetness, Na jane koteko madhu shama nama ashago. Like Chandidas, he explained, I don't know how much madhu, how much honey or sweetness exists inside the name of Sham. Just the name, these 2 syllables have so much sweetness that the tongue cannot taste all of that sweetness. Now I remember when I used to hear that, I'm like, okay, that's nice poetry enough, but is it for real? But you can practice this. Try sitting down for one day for 6 hours. Only 6 hours, it's worth it. And chant Hare Krishna for 6 hours. Maybe in the beginning, like I said yesterday, it'll be like chewing sawdust. It can be hard. That's because our tongue's not so good. We haven't learned to be able to taste the sweetness, the essence. But you see after hour 2 or 3 or 4, it gets so sweet. And do that for a few days in a row. Really the process of sadhana bhakti is supposed to be chanting 64 rounds a day. I can't get on anyone's case for not doing it because I don't do it. But I did for some time. I remember in Bengal Pracha, I did for like a week or 2. And the first day was tough. And the second day it started getting better and better. And towards, I remember, it was just like some random day. It wasn't even Janmashtami or Ekadashi or anything. It was the day I chanted the most rounds in my life. Because it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I finished 64. And I was like, what am I going to do? I have like a whole another 5 hours. You know, what's going to happen? And it's like, I had to just stop. Because just the name is automatically so attractive and so sweet, and just like, you got to go, and it's like addictive. So it's something you can... The beauty about bhakti, or the philosophy that we follow, is not an intellectual game, even though you can't get into those. Even though it does get very logical, and you can have a lot of fun debating the philosophy and going deep into that. But that's not what it's about. This is a practical philosophy. It's an experiential thing that we can taste, and we're supposed to. Like Vijay Krishna asked Srila Gurudev, how do I know if I'm following the path of bhakti properly? How do I know if I'm pleasing you? He says, because you'll be very happy. Happiness is a natural side effect. So when we're following the process of bhakti, if we're experiencing this ananda, this pleasure, and we're experiencing some happiness, then we know it's working. So you can try at home. You can go 6 hours one day, take a weekend off just to chant, and go deep, 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 and you'll be able to see. Eventually, the name will become sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. Because it's a process. It takes some practice. Example I give is of surfing. I was just in Hawaii for some time, and this kid, he goes out there and goes and surfs all day, and I was like, oh, that looks fun, let me try. So I go out there, and the wave just slaps me in the face, and I get all rolled over. And I'm like, why do you do this? This doesn't seem so fun. But the better you get at it, the practice, then the more arms, anyway. But the better you get at it, then you can be able to taste the sweetness. So the process of bhakti is like that. In the beginning, okay, it's nice, my friends, I do some music, whatever. But after a while, it becomes very addictive and very, very sweet. So much sweetness is there. I remember someone sent an email to a Vaishnava, some great saint that I respect so much. And they said, there's different types of chanting. There's different qualities. There's Nama Parad, which means I have no love. I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to do it. And you're chanting, and it's not so fun. Then there's Nama Bhas. Abhas means the semblance, like the shadow. It's a semblance. So it's not the pure name like he was speaking about. It's not like when you say Krishna, God directly manifests in front of you with all of his friends and family and all of the pastimes, and you're in this transcendental world. But it's something close. It's a shadow. It's a semblance of that. And then there's Sudhanam, which is the pure name, which is chanting the name of God, means having a relationship with God that's not influenced by any of the material nature. It's Sudha, it's pure. It doesn't have any of my mundane intellectual ideas on it. It doesn't have any things of this world. And it's purely of that world. And that's the highest type. So he said, okay, we hear about these different qualities of chanting, but how do we know if we're chanting Namabhas? How do we know? What's the symptom? How can we tell? And he said very simply that when you're chanting this, he said in Bengali, Ami bhalo lage korte. which means I like doing this. This is kind of cool. When you're thinking, when you're chanting, and then there's some type of sweetness. You're not rolling on the ground in ecstatic bliss, but saying, oh, this is nice. I like this. Then that's namabas. Then chanting, it becomes sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. Like if you take milk, sometimes we make take milk and you boil it, then it becomes thicker and thicker and thicker, and then when it's really thick, it's good. Then it becomes a hard ball, and you put some sugar in it. So good. So chanting is like practice, then it becomes sweeter and sweeter and sweeter and more condensed essence. So back to the point that I was saying before. What happens in the first time when we chant name, when we chant Harinam? The first time. Because we can't assimilate all of that sweetness and all of that joy and beauty in one go, it happens in layers and stages. So we have our senses. We have the 11 senses, how many certain are knowledge acquiring senses. So we've got our taste, our smell, our sound, our ears, our sight. So first, I forget which order it is, but one of the senses, let's say it's the sound. The sound of Krishna, the sound of his voice, the sound of his flute, which is so sweet, completely fills our ears, and you get completely maddened by the sound. See, when Krishna plays his flute in Vrindavan, this happens on a regular basis, all the gopis become completely mad and crazy. It's such a beautiful sound. So that sound fills our ears, and it's so sweet, it's too much, then we fall unconscious. And then wake up again. Then the smell of Shri Krishna. And then fall unconscious. Begin to fall unconscious out the subtle bhags. Then the sight of Shri Krishna, which is so beautiful. You see, Anandamaya Abhyasat, the process of spiritual life is to be able to search pleasures, to be able to search the happiness. Because like yesterday I was explaining, that's our birthright. That's who we are. That's our dharma, our inherent natures to seek for that happiness and that sweetness and that beauty. So we see naturally in this world, everyone's attracted to things that are beautiful. A beautiful woman is there, everybody looks. You go to Hawaii, go to Bahana Highway, what beautiful, very attractive. You know, everything, nature, you look out there, beautiful, nice. People naturally attracted to beauty, because this is part of our dharma, this is part of our soul's nature to be attracted to that beauty. But the source, the origin, where all of that comes from is right there, from Shri Krishna, being able to attract our minds and to be able to attract our hearts. So that's the process of bhakti, to be able to taste the sweetness of holy name, taste the sweetness of chanting. What I was planning to speak about today, which I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'll say a little something, was a little something about the mind. What is the mind? In the Vedic scriptures it says, Smartavyo satatam vishnur vismartavyo najatachet sarva vidhi nishedeshur eteyor eva kinkara, which means there's a lot of rules in the Vedic scriptures. If you begin to read them, that may make you crazy, but not in the good way. In another way, about what time of day you have to do things, what direction you have to be facing, whether you touch with your left hand or your right hand, or this and that. And those who go to India, you go completely crazy with the rules. But they're important. But all of the rules that exist in the Vedic scriptures is only servant of two rules. They exist only to serve these two rules. Those rules, the first one is always remember Krishna. And the second rule is never forget Krishna. Kind of cheated, didn't they? They do it in the Vedic scriptures too. So all of the rules that exist in the Vedic scriptures is to do that. So when we follow the process of bhakti, when we chant japa rounds, when we sit assembling together to hear Harikatha like we're doing now, when we speak, this is also part of the process. I've said this here before, but it's important, is that I'm getting the most out of this class than anyone. Because this speaking is a form of kirtan. This speaking is there, and it helps me, what? Serve those two rules. Always remember Krishna. So that's why they say if you want to hear Harikatha properly, you have to speak. So that means, like Srila Gurudev said, I've given these classes, now you go and you tell your friends. So what you hear here, oh wow, there's this name and it's really powerful and sweet and Krishna is God and it's not different. What you hear, if you go and you tell that to someone, then you have to think about it more. Then it goes through your mind and it absorbs your consciousness in that philosophy, in, like he said, Nam Rup Guna Lila, the name, the form, the qualities and the pastimes of Shri Krishna. And that's the purpose of spiritual life. It's just for our mind to be absorbed in that. So when we're sweeping the temple, so Vayamana Krishna Padara Vindayo, when we're sweeping the temple, when we're cooking, when we're making the garlands for the deities, when we're walking on parikram. These are just ways of engaging our physical body to remind us of, oh yeah, Krishna, he's really beautiful, he's really sweet. And to be able to be completely mesmerized or completely absorbed in the sweetness of Sri Krishna, in the pastimes. So like he said, that Krishna, he descends into this world for several reasons. One of the reasons why Krishna descends is like, you come here. I was like spaced out upstairs, I was just swimming, and I came and I saw the deities, like, wow! They're gorgeous! Like Raghunath Prabhu says, the most beautiful deities in the world. I have a point there, you know. It's so beautiful. And then this can remind us of all the philosophy, of all the things that we're hearing now. Wow, this is Krishna. And then we can think, oh, what is Krishna made of? And someone could say, like Mr. Adhikari, oh, he's made of marble. They think, no, actually Krishna's made of the milk of Mother Yashoda. His mother, he's drinking that milk. Or someone else might have the understanding that Krishna manifests according to the mood or the love of his devotees. So in a way you can say Krishna is the manifestation of the love of his devotees. Like Shakshad Manmata Manmata, the most beautiful form of Krishna is after Ras Leela, when Krishna is performing pastimes with the gopis. After that, and he runs away, and the gopis, they get together and they sing Gopi Geet, which is a very beautiful song. In India, if you come sometimes, stay for 1 month in the mutt with us, you might be lucky to be able to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, walk to the Ganga, 3 o'clock maybe, walk to the Ganga, the Jamuna, and chant this Gopi Geet every morning. Because these mantras are also very, very powerful. It was so powerful, Krishna had to manifest directly in front. And when Krishna manifested directly there, he was known as Shakshad Manmata Manmata, the most beautiful form of Sri Krishna. Because the love of the gopis was in its highest crescendo, was in its highest state at that time, so therefore the form of Krishna also manifested in that way. Krishna says that he who, whichever mood you worship to me, I respond accordingly. So someone, like they say, you take 1 step towards Krishna, he takes 10 steps towards you, you see Krishna as God, and he's like, yes, I'm God there. But if you have the highest type of love like Srimati Radhika has, then Krishna's most beautiful and highest transcendental form is also manifested. So bhakti is so beautiful, it's so cool. this process of bhakti. I have to correct Jayagopal. He said one thing wrong in his class. He said that Krishna knows how beautiful he is. And the fact is, he has no idea. He doesn't know how beautiful he is. Sometimes Krishna in Dwarka is not nearly as beautiful as Krishna in Vrindavan. Not nearly as beautiful, but still God and really very beautiful. So in Dwarka, he's walking and he sees a pillar, and in the pillar is made of diamonds and there's reflection. He sees himself, goes, wow, oh my gosh, who's that? And he's completely stunned and can't move. Because he sees the beauty. He's unaware of how beautiful he is. So when Krishna comes in the form of a devotee, like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he comes for 3 reasons. And one of those reasons is to be able to see how beautiful he is. It's like, what is it in me? Why does Srimati Radhika, when she sees me, when my devotees have so much love and they see me, they go completely crazy? What are they seeing? In the mirror, I don't see it in the mirror. What is it? Because they're seeing him with such love and such relationship. It's like, okay, what is that? God doesn't understand. He's completely confused, and he comes in the form of the devotee. He comes in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and does what we're doing right now. Does what Srila Gurudev is prescribing to us. He hears, he chants, he remembers, he does parikrama, he does all the processes of bhakti that we're doing to be able to taste that sweetness that Srimati Radhika feels. And to be able to learn the glory of that love, to be able to understand what is it in him that's so amazing that makes his devotees go crazy. So I guess in another dimension, Jayagopal was right. When God becomes in the form of a devotee, then he's able to understand a little bit of the sweetness of himself, of how sweet he is. So, okay, back on topic. The topic, the mind. Okay? The mind is a very, very interesting element, actually. Very interesting vehicle. Whatever you put in it, it reflects that back. So whatever you put inside your mind, automatically it echoes that and reflects that. So all the processes that we follow, like I explained before, hearing, chanting, remembering, everything, is just so that we can set up different things in a certain way to be able to remind our mind, to be able to be putting Krishna conscious stuff in our mind, so that eventually we don't have to be putting it in with our intelligence anymore, and automatically it begins to pull us. Then this is the stage of Ashakti. When we come to the stage of Ruchi and Ashakti, Krishna's name, form, qualities and pastimes become so sweet, so automatically they start pulling us, and we, just like right now, myself, when we see Maya, automatically you don't have to work, just automatically putting and attracted there. But the process of bhakti is that we develop that greed or that lobha, where we're automatically attracted to Shri Krishna. And the Vaishnavas then we can't not think of Krishna. Like in its highest expression, the gopis. Once upon a time, Krishna left Vrindavan. Why did he do that? Oh boy, he shouldn't have done that. But he did. So Krishna, he left Vrindavan. And the gopis were in so much pain of separation. And after 100 years, they came and they met in Kurukshetra. And they met after such a long time, and it was such a beautiful meeting. I think, did Ashram Maharaj explain a little something about that here? About Rath Yatra. The whole festival, Rath Yatra, is about this meeting in Kurukshetra. So the discussions between Krishna and the gopis, they're so beautiful. Just one thing though, relevant to this part, is Krishna says, you know what? You should be like a yogi. You should be like a muni. What they do is they sit in Padmasana, go like this, and they meditate, they go Om, and then they try to realize me inside their mind. If you did that, then you'd realize I'm inside your heart, and you'd not have to worry. You wouldn't be feeling this pain of separation. And the gopis said, Krishna, I thought you were smart. What happened? What happened in Dwarka for so long? He says, if you could tell us a mantra that we could chant so we could forget you, that would be really nice. That's what we want. Is we're trying so hard to get you out of our mind, because if you were out of our mind, maybe we could go on with our lives. Maybe we could live normally again. Maybe we could do that. But we can't get you out of our mind. You're always completely there. So this is the nature of the love and the relationship of the gopis. So high, so sweet. And that's why those who have a second initiation, Diksha, the Kama Gayatri, the Kama Bij, Pushpa Ban. Ban means an arrow of flowers. Krishna is so beautiful that if he goes inside your heart, you can't take him out. Like Srila Gurudev always. That's so beautiful. You hear it a million times, but I like it every time. When Krishna, he said, Gurudev, he says that this song, it's actually a verse from Rupa Goswami. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur made it into a song. Bandhu sarge judi tava ranga parihas. Tabe mora kota nako, jeo nako, mathura keshi tirtha gatara sakash. Which says, if you want to be happy with your friends and your family, if you want to be able to enjoy Miami Beach, the nice wind coming and the ocean, and whatever you do, don't go to Mathura. Very bad. If you go to Mathura, make sure you don't go to the bank of the Jamuna, to Vangsivat. And if you do that, make sure you don't see Sham. Make sure you don't see Krishna there. Because if you do, Hoy Sarvanash, everything will be destroyed. You won't be able to live in your normal family life. You might end up wearing a pink bed sheet. You might you won't be able to, you might get kicked out of your apartment, make too much noise. You won't be able to live normally again. Because he's so beautiful and so sweet, the mind and the heart and the intelligence and everything will be completely attracted and turn you completely into a madman. Therefore Krishna says, Je kore amarash, ami kori tar sarva nash. Means he who aspires for me, I completely mess up their life. I destroy everything for them. But this is the process of bhakti. If you want something, you have to renounce. If you want muscles, you have to renounce the comfort of not doing push-ups. You have to go through some pain. If you want some money, like what Napoleon Hill says, you've got to be money conscious. You've got to put your consciousness and you've got to renounce certain things. Anything worth having, you've got to give up something for and give some focus. So the highest type of love, the highest type of sweetness and beauty, the beauty that God himself is still trying to figure out. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you want to taste that natural side effect, everything else will be destroyed. But it's worth it because it's sweet. So sweet. Yeah. Also, just another thing that I was going to mention about the class that he was speaking about how Krishna, he's actually there directly. He's there directly, but because of our ignorance, stupid consciousness, maybe we're not able to relate, not able to speak and have that relationship. But many times in history, deities have come and danced. Like there's a place, I think Alalanath. You go in Alalanath, also Alalanath, in Puri. There was one Brahmin. He was taking care of the deities every day, taking Om, taking the mantras and offering boga to the deity. He had to go, so he told his son, his small boy, and he said, you should make sure that the deity eats, you offer prasadam to him. So then the boy went there, very simple mind, and said he didn't know how to do the mantras, he didn't know how to ring the bell and wave the thing or any of that. His mother cooked and he brought it in front. Everything was closed, he was alone, and he said, now you have to eat. And the deity stood there, and he said, hurry up, I'm hungry. I can't eat till you eat, so you've got to eat. He wasn't doing anything, and he said, you eat, if you don't eat, my mother's going to get on my case. She's going to say I didn't do the offering. She took a stick and said, eat. The deity was like, uh-oh. So then the deity sat down, and began to eat. He said, very good. Then he came out, and then the mother said, where's the prasad? He said, the deity ate it. And he said, come on, really? And he said, yeah, the deity ate it. He's like, naughty boy, I bet you're inside the deity room eating it yourself. He's like, no. So then for the whole week when the father was away, every day, hey, hurry up, eat. And then Krishna would come down and eat. So then the mother told the father about that, like, our boy, he's doing the offering, I don't know, he's saying the deity's eating it, is he not? We've never seen this before. So then they were spying. Then the deity was eating, and he noticed that he was being spied on, and he froze in that position. So that deity is still there in Alalanath, in Puri. You can go. The deity is still available. Another, was it Totagopinath? Or not Totagopinath? Anyway, the other deity, also in Puri area, is a short story. Anyway, basically, okay, I'll tell it real fast, okay? Once upon a time, there was a Brahmin. This Brahmin was old, and he wanted to go on pilgrimage. He went on pilgrimage, and he couldn't go by himself, so a young Brahmin helped him out. Then he said, I'll give you my daughter in marriage because you helped me so much. Then he said, okay, you promise it in front of the deity. They promised in front of the deity. And then they went back, and then the son said, Father, you can't have my sister marry him. No way, he's too skinny, too poor. That's not going to happen. So they said, okay, we're calling the wedding off. And then the Brahmin said, you promised. He says, I don't really want to marry your daughter, but because you made the promise, I can't see your word become destroyed. Word is the most powerful thing. You said in front of the deity. They said, okay, well, if you bring the deity as a witness here, then he testifies, then we'll know that this has happened. So he went and said, okay, you're the one who saw this, the witness of the Brahmin, so therefore you come and you testify. The deity said, I don't really walk places. I'm a deity. I sit here on the altar, I play the flute, I do this. I'm not going to go. And he said, well, if you can talk, why can't you walk? And they said, okay. He says, you walk, but I'll walk behind you, but you'll hear my ankle bells. So the Brahmin was walking, and he kept on hearing the ankle bells of the deity behind him. And then, yeah, like that. Sound effects in the class, so nice. So here are the ankle bells, and then to make a long story short, all the villagers came, wow, the deity came, and then he married his daughter. But it's to prove that the deity is alive. Tuma vigraha nahi shakshat vrajanjanandan. As the acharyas say, you're not a deity, you're directly Vrajanjanandan. You're directly Sri Krishna. But it depends on the mood, on the love. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena. It says if you have anjana, Ayurvedic medicine, very good for the eyes. I wish I could get some now. But anjana, Ayurvedic medicine. Say premanjana, if you take this anjana or this Ayurvedic eye drops of love, then you can actually see Krishna. Then you can actually have a relationship. When that love is inside the heart, then you can see that this is not stone. That same Vaishnava who had the letter, and he said that, if you feel really good when you're chanting, then it means you're chanting Namavas. Someone was spying on him when he was doing an offering. Someone was spying on him, and to see what does he do. And we know when we take Diksha, you've got to take your Brahmin tray, you've got to ring the bell, you've got to chant the mantras, there's all these things you're supposed to do. But he went inside, and he just, he said, Kal Baba Kal. Eat, no. Bas. This is true love and relationship with the deity. So really our goal, our aspiration is to become one of the family members of Shri Krishna, of Srimati Radhika, a small servant of Srimati Radhika living there in their community in Vrajadham. Sarvacha Jagatamare Koribiri Bhakti, Aishwara Sitala Prem Nahimore Priti. Like in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna is saying that everybody in this world worships me with Aishwarya. Everyone has this concept that, oh, he's God, I'm not worthy, and they worship God, the generator, the operator, the destroyer. They chant all these mantras and do all these things, worshipping Arti, and all of these things. But Aishwarya Sitala Prem Nahimore Priti. That love of knowing that I'm God and knowing my awe and reverence, that has no power to control me. I'm not attracted to that. I don't want that. The type who lives in Orlando, she has a little deity, she buys them toys. Goes to the store, buys them toys and little dolls and that. Also in India, in some of the temples there, they also have these little toys they have for the deities, and they dee in front of the deity. And that, with a great relationship. So bhakti, like we said before, is not complicated. It's about creating sambandha, that love and relationship with Krishna. But if we're a little thick-headed like I am, then we have all this philosophy. We can explain the structure of the universe through quantum physics and the power of sound vibration and elements. And I'm going to write a book about that. That's all really cool and fun. But the essence is the things we're speaking about today. You know, Krishna is so merciful. So merciful. Like he said, he descends in the form of holy name, of chanting, which we can have with us at every time, always with us. He descends in the form of the deities, so we can worship. But also, he says, oh, I see all the living entities, they're suffering in this world, I've got to do something to steal their mind. That's why it's called Madan Mohan. It means the person who steals the mind of the devotees. Mohan bewilders the mind. So he comes with his friends, with his family, Swaparshada Swiyadhama, with all of his associates, and performs pastimes in this world. For only one reason. That reason is so that we can go on parikrama with Srila Gurudev with those big speakers on the rickshaw and go and say, wow, this is the place where Krishna did this pastime. And then we can remember, we can think, wow, how beautiful are the pastimes that Krishna is doing, and that steals our mind and attracts us. Then we could become completely mad for tasting that sweetness. Sometimes I feel a little bit bad when I say that your whole life is going to be destroyed when you do bhakti. You're not going to be happy, you know, this pronunciation and this and that. But the fact is, it's really good. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Raso varjam rasopyasta paramdrishta nivartate. That we give up a lower taste by experiencing a higher taste. So the only reason why it messes it up is because we tasted something better. We can't settle for second best after that. So it's a good thing. Okay. So, I think that's good for now, especially Bhagavad. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, you were like explaining about the relation. Mantra means that we're trying to liberate our mind with some sound vibration.
Yes.
The Mahamatra is the higher because it's in the body of God Himself.
Yes.
And then you agree that, let's say, that because mind is a vehicle, is in our use, or when we use the mind to do things, let's say but also we can use the mind to create things, like in the sense that we can change things, we can imagine things, because that's what I'm trying to go in the point that, okay, our mind, in some sense, they say, oh, could be our worst enemy, or could be our best ally, let's say. And I don't know what's the relation, basically, when we chant the mantra, we're trying to focus, we're trying to, let's say, create something when we express the sound vibration, we focus on the mind, or how the things work?
I'll say it very simply. Bhakti, perfection in spiritual life, is when your consciousness and your mind is completely absorbed in Krishna. That's the perfection. Now, anything that's not that is the opposite. It's not bhakti, it's this material energy. So when we're chanting, when we're hearing, when we're doing all of this, it's for our mind to be absorbed in Krishna. But Krishna is not so simple. Krishna is God. Like I said yesterday, an expansion of Him is lying down, and in pores of His skin all millions of universes come. And that's all this stuff, which is kind of complicated. It's just like almost a non-event for Krishna. So
So there's many different, the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna. There's so much diversity in that. But the main thing is for our consciousness, for us to be able to remember that, be absorbed in that. So that's what we're trying to do. And then there's many side effects. I mean, like in my book that I'm going to write, I'll explain about the mind and the energy and how you can use it for chi and this and that. And that's how do you say, lower philosophy. That's not as cool.
But the mind is not our consciousness. It's different. Our consciousness is more in the, let's say, deeper level. Let's say in the related with the ourself, with the soul.
Okay, there's this is a little bit complicated. What there is, there's something called the chitta. I don't know what the chitta is. This is a very subtle covering that exists around the soul. And the chitta, I've heard that it's made of mahatattva, which is like the primordial elements which everything manifests from. And we're the soul inside the chitta, and we're seeing the chitta. And this chitta, I kind of imagine it like a big TV screen, and what we're seeing, like I see Raghunath here, we see the different people around, it's just a reflection onto the chitta. Now the chitta is also sometimes referred to as the mind, or the consciousness. But we also know that there's a material element. There's earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. There's mind, which is also a material element which exists in this world. So when we're talking about our consciousness or the absorption of that, we're actually talking, okay, the material element in this world, we want to absorb that in Krishna. But eventually we'll give up that. We'll give up identifying with that. That will have no control over us. Then we want that chitta to be completely clean. That's why Cheto Darpana Marjanam, by cleaning the chitta, then there's no dirt. But what I mean by what? There's no obstacles or no material conditioning that exists on that. So therefore it becomes completely transparent, and we can see who we are ourselves. We can see who Krishna is, and it becomes completely pure. But then even in the deeper sense, on the soul level, the transcendental sense, on the level of our desire and our relationship and our sambandha, then we can have that connection with Krishna. So when we're saying consciousness, it's kind of like a few different things, and it depends on where we are in our spiritual advancement about what that means. In the beginning, we say, okay, Hare Krishna, okay, no, think of Krishna, think of Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. That's we're dealing on a more gross, mundane level. But then when it's like Srimati Radhika's mind, her mind and her heart are non-different. And Srimati Radhika's mind and heart is non-different from Shri Giriraj. And Shri Vrindavan Dham is all a manifestation from Srimati Radhika's mind. So there's no difference from all of that. So when they say, well, she wants Krishna in her mind, like also in this how do you say, Rath Yatra Prasangam, Krishna said, well, I'm here, we're meeting here now, so aren't you happy? He said, no, more Mon Vrindavan. He said, I want you inside my mind, but my mind is Vrindavan. So you have to come into Shri Vrindavan Dham. So I know I'm saying like a whole bunch of different things, but that's kind of the point that I'm making. Is that there's a few different things, and as you go deeper into the philosophy and as you advance, you see there's the Chincha Veda Veda Tattva. Everything is eventually kind of like the same, but then there's also a differentiation between that. And did you want to say something about Chitta and the mind?
I'm just thinking, it's like the idea of mystic power, being able to create your future and create the world with the power of mind. That's all like you're saying that's all available and legitimate.
But it's
so then the question is, when is it service and when is it exploitation? Because if you're, let's say you have that, and you can like manifest stuff with your mind, feasibly you could do it in service still, right?
How many people here have heard of The Secret?
That's what I was thinking when you were saying this question.
The secret, with your mind you can manifest things into reality. When you buy my book, I want to outsell The Secret. I'm explaining how that actually happens mechanically. How does it actually work? And it's coming from the Vedic scriptures where it says there's earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Lingam Prakriti Astada is described in the Bhagavad Gita. There's 8 elements. These are material elements which exist inside this world. Now, if you study acupuncture or you know these things, the subtle creates the physical. Like when he said something subtle, a word, a mantra, then Lakshman lifted his hand. So the physical elements, or the earth and water and fire which exists inside the person's arm, was moved by something which existed more subtly, which was the sound, which lives in the letter of the ether. So if you get into the details, the subtle is always more powerful than the physical. So water is more powerful than earth, fire is more powerful than water, air is more powerful than fire, and you can think about it, get into the details. So then there's mind, intelligence, and false ego. So when you have the identity or the concept, I am a rich person, or I'm a this, I'm a martial artist, or whatever concept you have, that identity, then it begins your intelligence to begin to think about the different things and necessary to be able to structure those things. Then that moves to the mind. The mind, one thing about the mind is how do I explain it? The mind is empty. The mind is not good, it's not bad, it's neutral. It just, whatever you put into it, it gives that back. It just puts into it and gives back. It's just like a how do you say,
Echo.
like an echo, yeah. It's like an echo. So when we have our identity, and then that goes into the intelligence, then our mind begins to echo that identity and that belief. And then from the mind, when things are echoing in our consciousness, then it comes into our words. And that's where mantra comes in. That's where the sound vibration goes into ether, into the sound vibration and air, and then it begins to move the physical elements around. So I'm simplifying it a lot. So when the subtle creates the physical. So when we're speaking about the power of mantra or the power of the mind to be able to manifest things physically, that happens. We can maybe after we can do a little bit of a demonstration. You can, by the power of your mind, you can move the chi in your arm, then the arm's unbendable. By being able to move, be able to channel that energy. So if you want, you can use the way the universe is set up, the way Krishna created creation, to be able to have the identity, like we described yesterday, that I'm God. Everything here is for my enjoyment. So therefore, I want a Mercedes, so I'm going to use a secret and I'll manifest a Mercedes. Or I want a skyscraper, so I manifest a skyscraper. And that can be done. And then he's saying, well, what if that's service? How do you tell the difference whether that's good or bad? Should we do it? Should we not? So the answer is not what you do with your mind, because what you do with your mind is a reflection of what you're doing with your intelligence, and your intelligence is what you're doing with the identity. So like Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada said, advancement in spiritual life depends on the attitude of the follower. So it depends on your identity. Or you could be doing the same thing with a different identity and it means totally different things. Like an example is, in India there's a rickshaw, and then there's an old man with a young girl on the rickshaw. So someone that has the identity, oh, why is that man with that girl? How gross, that's not good. But if someone has the identity, no, this is my daughter. And there's a father, and the relationship is different, the identity is different, and therefore even though the act can be the same, riding on a rickshaw, the total context, everything is different. So the essence of spiritual life is bhajdatu iti sevaya. Bhajan is to do service. So if we have the identity of I'm Krishna Nityadas, I'm the servant of Krishna, Krishna is my most beloved, and then we use our intelligence and our mind and all of these things to manifest things in this world for the service of Krishna, then that's good. That's nice, we're doing it, we're redesigning the internet. If anyone wants the business presentation, we'll do one like the day after tomorrow. we're doing he knows about it. It depends on the relationship, depends on your sambandha. So then the question can come, okay, well what's more subtle than identity? Because identity in a sense is a material substance. And then more subtle than that is our desire. Is our desires. What do we want? So the simple answer to your question is, if you want to serve Krishna and you're doing whatever you do, then it's great. If you're not doing it for pleasure, for serving Krishna with that identity, then it's Maya. Then it's taking us away. But now the beautiful thing is, all that stuff, how I explained how things work in this world, you can get into the details about like the chi moving in the body and the fire and the elements in the mind. But all the stuff that happens in this world is like an afterthought or just a slight reflection of how things work in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, like we said, this world is just like a non-event in the pour of Mahavishnu. So we see, okay, the way that the elements work and affect each other in this world, then in the spiritual world, they also work in this similar way. So in the spiritual world, when the gopis, they have this desire, they want to see Krishna, when they have this identity, Krishna is going to come, and then their mind gets absorbed in Krishna, and Krishna manifests immediately. It's powerful, and that's the real event. So really, in this class, in this context, because there's so many nice devotees, I don't want to speak about the material stuff. Speak about the sweet stuff. Krishna is really beautiful, like that stuff.
Can I give an example of
sure.
the law of attraction? It was just reminding me, a while back I was in Bangalore and I was trying to do that law of attraction thing, and then it helped me realize something, like the technology of prayer. So you're praying and you're praying and you're praying for something. And then when it comes, how it really works is then when it comes time for that to manifest, you've reprogrammed your identity and you're ready to put you're ready to decide in that direction. Does that make sense? You're ready to accept those opportunities in that direction. Like you can imagine time is constantly bifurcating based on your decisions. So if your identity is that I am someone who does not take opportunity of this particular kind of opportunity, then even if Krishna were to provide that opportunity 5 million times, you would pass it by. But through prayer, here's I use NLP when I chant my japa, straight up. First 4 rounds, I'm just going to tell you some of my own technique, my own technology. First 4 rounds, I meditate on a picture of myself chanting the next however many rounds I plan to chant, and what state I plan to be in, and who I plan to be. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, and by doing that, then on the 5th round, you're like, okay, here it comes, right? And it does. And there's 2 parts of that. One is sadhan and mercy, sadhan and kripa. One part of it is you're trying. The other part of it is they're given. But they can give all day, but if you're not ready to receive it, it'll go right by you. So you pray for it, it sends a really clear message to them that when I do send it, he's going to accept it. Then when it comes time, you actually NLP'd your brain into like getting ready for it. And then it happens, and it comes. So it's, again, it's that technology. It's NLP and mind, manipulating the mind, and you can totally use that stuff. I do all the time, it's really useful. Or like if you're managing babies, then it's really helpful to know some NLP to like teach them how to behave a certain way so that they will learn the things you're trying to help them learn. Or like, let's say you're preaching. If you know human nature and you know, even on a mystic level, you know how to interact with someone so that they can accept what you're saying, and you also know that what you're saying is coming from Gurudev and you're feeling that connection, and by all means, use that, right? Because it's for service. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Well, it's not a question. It's a comment or a pastime of Gurudev that I heard from Shamala Devi, and she was saying they were, I think either they were in Italy and Gurudev was speaking, and as Gurudev was speaking, he was saying, and then Krishna blew on his flute, and as soon as Gurudev said, and Krishna blew on his flute, Krishna on the altar had a flute, and there were 3 little flowers in the flute. And as Gurudev said, and then Krishna blew his flute, each little flower fell off the flute. And Shamala got to see it, and some other devotees, and they all went, their mouths kind of dropped, like, oh wow, Gurudev said it, and then Krishna did it, and he blew the flute. So it's an example of, the pure devotee with Krishna and
controlling the universe.
Yeah.
I've heard of some deities that after having them for a while, the clothes don't fit them anymore. They get a little fatter.
Yeah.
What?
Depend on the cook.
Depend on the cook. And how often?
The better the cook, the better the person making the clothes needs to be.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, actually, I remember I was taking a train in India, and there was just some like Indian guys, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to India? You're going to Vrindavan?" And I was young. I still am young, but I was younger. And I was like a teenager, and so we were just hanging. I grew up in India, so we were just like chilling out, hanging out with them, and they were like, "So you go to Vrindavan?" And like, "Oh wow, so you know about Vrindavan?" And we were speaking about them, and then when it turned out, they were just like messing with us and testing us, but they were the family that takes care of Radha Raman. They're like the kids of the family that take care of Radha Raman. They like the pujaris from there in Vrindavan, yeah. But they were just dressed like normal, like Indian guys that, and then when they're speaking with like so much, like this was real. They're like, this deity is amazing. Like we don't tell people, but you can like, sometimes he breathes and you can feel the breath from the deity. I remember them telling us, they're like just like these other kids that are there on the altar, they feel like the breath of the deity. And I remember that they were saying a few other things that were just like, well, this guy's alive, and I remember it's like they said they could feel the breath, and they weren't like in a class trying to sell it. We were just like, they were kids, the kids of the pujaris, and we were just chilling out on the train.
I thought that was really interesting. You know. Yeah.
Maharaj, I had a question about manifesting using the subtle elements.
Yeah.
Isn't this a catch-22? Because how can someone be inspired for anything material unless until someone has some sukriti? And if someone has some sukriti, it's only then they would have a desire. For example, someone wants to be a martial artist. No one can just think of it. They might not be successful. Wouldn't that mean that they didn't have the sukriti for that sort of an acquisition, even though they did try the subtle elements and put everything in place?
Okay. Yeah, good question. Let me just repeat it to make sure I got it right. It says that no one's going to automatically just say, I want to do martial arts. There has to be a pre-existing relationship with martial arts. There has to be something from a previous life, or they have to have done it before to be able to want to be able to have that understanding and that desire to be able to manifest becoming a good martial artist or whatever. And the answer is to that, if you go into the essence of the soul, you see that really our desire is we can be Krishna Unmukh or Krishna Bahirmukh. If we choose to be Krishna Unmukh, means we can look towards Krishna and be selfless and for the service of Krishna, then the Yoga Maya comes and takes charge, and we enter into that dimension in that world. Then when we have the desire that I want to enjoy, then Prakriti Kriyamanani Guna Karmani Sarvasha, then material Maya comes in and bewilders our mind, and then many other things come into play. Many other things come. The three modes of material nature, depending on our consciousness, also depending on our sangha, depending on that means our association, and then our so many different things. Now here's the part that's kind of tricky, is we're always conditioned to think in material time. We think, well, what happened at the beginning? Where did it start? The Krishna Buli Sejiv and Nadir Bahimukh, we've been conditioned since before time existed. So we've been in the cycle of birth and death since before time existed. Don't try to figure it out, because it really messes with your head. You can try. So we've always had some samskar. We've always had some impression from many, many millions of lifetimes, some impression. And then also by association with people, then that also has influence on us. So if we're attracted to martial arts, it's because we've had some impression from a previous lifetime of martial arts, and also because the modes of material nature are right, and because of the sangha we've had, and also largely because of our own desire. So how that desire of wanting to enjoy separate from Krishna is manifested is it's through all these other elements and all these other things that exist. The way that I like to imagine it is like I should probably imagine this more clearly before I speak it, but it's like there's a person in the beginning, it's like I can go this way, or I can go, like you have a ball, I can put it this way, or I can put it that way. So he takes the ball and he puts it in there, but once you let go of the ball in there, whether it goes in like these tubes or these pipes, which way it goes, that's all other things that are affecting that. So when we say, I want to serve separate from Krishna, then the modes of material nature, samskars, and all these other things will say, oh, I want to do martial arts, or oh, I want to do business, or oh, I want to lay on the beach, or whatever it is these other things.
We have to call Vaikanas Maharaj and have this conversation.
Okay.
Because I was saying this to him, he's trying to defeat that idea.
But the thing is, it's not so black and white. I don't think that's 100% correct with what I'm saying. Because also, the nature of the soul is made of desire. A lot of times, especially when we realize that our desires have really messed us up, we want to take that responsibility and push it somewhere else. Like, oh, it's because of the association, or it's because of this. But the fact of the matter is, more subtle than identity and intelligence and mind and all of these things is desire. And that's the driving force that brings us through this world. That's why this building is built. That's why everything happens, is from desire. And where that desire comes from is us. And that's where we're Bibidam Satakpa. In one sense, we're like little baby gods, small gods, because Krishna's made of desire. In the same way, we're also made of desire. It's kind of tricky, and the results that happen in this world and everything is coming purely from us, and we have the choice and we have the ability to be able to change our desires. And one part that can be kind of annoying is, oh no, I made all this mess up myself, but another part's like, well, that's really cool, so I don't need to depend on this or that. I can do bhakti now. I can do bhakti now, and it's my responsibility, you know. Like Gurudev told me. He said, you're thinking you're a small boy, but now you're quite big.
I still think I'm a small boy, but he told me this years ago. he said, now you're big now. You can take responsibility. I just give like advice, but the final decision you'll have to make. And our decisions are our own choice. You know?
My argument was that moment by moment you can decide either Krishna should be happy or I should be happy.
Yes.
Moment by moment.
Yes.
And you can decide it a lot or a little.
Yes.
And if you decide I should be happy, after that, your preferences, that's all taken care of by Mahamaya. Like you can't decide between Coke and Pepsi, that's all.
But at the same time, there is something, because we're identifying with the body, and there is something more than just the material nature and the samskaras. There's also a desire.
But then I was saying, when you decide Krishna should be happy, then it opens up, you become awake, and the full range of free will is available there. Which service I'll do.
I don't know, we have to debate it later.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not sure. But the essence is, complicated stuff is fun. But the essence is Krishna is beautiful and just... And any other things? Or
when we're chanting rounds and that, we have to be attentive, you know, it's offensive. But on the other hand, like when we're not chanting rounds, we still want to chant, but we have to do so many, concentrate on other things. So can we avoid offensive? I mean, it's not offensive then, is it?
well, like the Goswamis, they used to eat with one side of their mouth and chant with the other side. So like Gurudev says, everything you're doing, all of your activities, also absorbing your mind and chanting while you're doing everything. That's good. There's no offense to that. That's very, very good. Like Gurudev, when he gives initiation, he says you can chant when driving. Don't use your beads then, but you can chant at any time with everything that you're doing. But another thing, you said sometimes some activities that we do takes our consciousness and it's maybe not possible to chant properly there, and we have to focus and put awareness there. And that's why we live a life of service. If everything we're doing is for the pleasure of Gurudev and Krishna and the pleasure of Vaishnavas, then even if we're doing something which is mundane, which our consciousness might seem not absorbed in Krishna, because of the identity, because of that sambandha, that relationship, then that's done as an offering to Krishna. And it's good as well. Did I get the point, or did I miss it?
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I ask questions and they start speaking all this stuff and they totally miss the point. So if I miss the point, tell me. Anything else?
Like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a magistrate.
Yeah.
He was using his full concentration apparently to help make these judicial decisions for people.
Yeah.
But at night he was like flipping out and cooking puris for Krishna in the middle of the night. And so, but one could argue that during the day making those judicial decisions, at least
his consciousness wasn't absorbed in Krishna. And that's why with this philosophy of the earth, water, fire, air, like this, his identity,
right,
which is more subtle, which is more powerful, is I'm the servant of Krishna, this is my service. So therefore that's much more important than actual activity. You know, what's going on in the earth and the water and other things. Yes?
Okay, we chant to invoke Krishna, to talk to Krishna, and you say eventually he'll appear. Well, everybody has Paramatma. Where does that differentiate? When is was that just an awakening of Paramatma, or can you elaborate on that? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, Paramatma is like the soul. If you take one hair and the tip and cut it into 10,000 pieces, that's the size of the spirit soul, which is us. That's at nighttime in the heart, sometimes in the throat, sometimes in the right eye. That's there. Then we say Paramatma, his size is one thumb big, and he's there inside the heart. It's Krishna. So sometimes a yogi will see the Paramatma and be like, oh my gosh! Really big. So you're saying that, okay, when we're chanting, aren't we seeing that Paramatma who exists inside the heart, or that Vishnu which exists inside everywhere? And depending on the process that people path, there's many, many different paths of spiritual life. Some of the yogis and the rishis, all their practices, what they're trying to do is realize Paramatma inside of the heart, or realize Vishnu that exists inside of everything and outside of everything, and know that God is everywhere. But that's not our path. We're like, why would we want that? Krishna's so beautiful. Because that Paramatma is, and remember yesterday I explained, there's Krishna, from Krishna comes Baladev, from Baladev comes Mahashankarshan, from Mahashankarshan comes Mool Shankarshan, from Mool Shankarshan comes the Chaturvyuha, and then from the Chaturvyuha comes Mahavishnu, and then from who's the one who lies down on the ocean, and when he lies down on the ocean there's all the universes inside the pores of the skin. Then that Mahavishnu manifests inside the ocean and becomes Garbhodakshay Vishnu. and inside, like every one of the universes in the pause of his skin, he manifests, and he's the one who lies down and he sweats and fills up half the universe with his sweat, which doesn't stink like our sweat, but he fills up half of the universe. Is lying there in Anantashesh. From his belly button comes Brahma, then Brahma creates all the universes, and then some of that is what we see out there in the sky, which is what Brahma's created. And then inside every atom of those universes, that Garbhodakshaya Vishnu manifests as Shiranadakshay Vishnu. And he's the one who's in every atom and inside of everything, within every molecule and every particle, that's the Paramatma. So a lot of yogis and rishis want to realize that guy is inside the heart and it exists inside everywhere. And we're like, wait a minute. We've got like the body of Krishna, who's the original one who's playing in Vrindavan, is our guru. So we want to go straight there. All this other stuff, our attention is not full. It comes as a side effect. It's not really what we want. We want Krishna, who's in Vrindavan, who's the source of everything. Everything comes from him. So when we're chanting, like we said, it's about the attitude or the relationship. So someone could be chanting certain mantras with the relationship trying to connect with Paramatma. But when we're chanting, we're trying to connect with Krishna, who's in Vrindavan, who's so sweet and so much cooler.
But how is that different? How is Paramatma different?
He's the same person. He's the same person, but in a sense he's a derivative. He's the same person, just not as cool. He's the same person who's manifest. Krishna manifests as Baladev Prabhu, who manifests as Mahavishnu, and so on and so forth, who manifests as Paramatma. So Paramatma is Krishna. It's the same person. Okay, I'll be a little bit more specific here. When you go into philosophy, there's two ways of understanding the philosophy. One way is according to Tattva Siddhanta, which is understanding the objective truth. And the other way is understanding is Rasa Siddhanta, which is what is my relationship. So we can, a very important distinction. So from Tattva Siddhanta, from philosophical conclusions, Paramatma and Krishna and Ram and Narayan, it's all the same. It's the same guy. And the process of mantra is connecting with that guy. So that, through all the past, that's objective truth. Now when you bring Rasa Siddhanta in, when you bring the subjective relationship, we say, no, Krishna Vrindavan plays the flute. Paramatma just sits there and does nothing. That's not as cool. He just observes. So in the notion of relationship, I can have more fun playing with Krishna than I can with Paramatma. There's more sweetness, there's a deeper relationship, which is, in ultimate reality, that's more important than the objective truth. So even though it's the same Sri Krishna, there's also the special Sri Krishna in Vrindavan that we want to know. That's our buddy, that's eating right now.
But is it? What was I going to say? Is that relationship any different? Like when it comes to guidance in your life, in your daily life?
Yeah.
Does Paramatma guide us with the same strength and the same objective as Krishna the flute?
Depends on your relationship. Because if your relationship is with Krishna and the flute, then that's the Krishna who's going to be inside your heart guiding you. Then he'll be guiding you.
Yeah.
So it's the same.
Like when you get, I've heard, essentially when you get Diksha, Gurudev is installing a different Paramatma.
Or what? Upgrade.
If Krishna can appear in stone,
then he can appear inside our heart.
Paramatma can be that guy. No heart.
Is that why you should pick your favorite deity and worship that personification, or what? I don't know if this is the correct.
Ishtadev in Sanskrit.
Okay.
Yes. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Prashadam ki jai, Vanchakalpatu Vishnu Arti ki jai. You can see where my consciousness is absorbed, manifested in my words. Vanchakalpatu Vishnu
More than 10, so we have to do it not so strong.
Okay.
Vishnu Maharaja Shrimad Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj ki jai. Niti Lila Vishnu Maharaja Shrimad Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj ki jai. Niti Lila Vishnu Maharaja Shrimad Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj ki jai. Niti Lila Vishnu Maharaja Shrimad Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Vishnu Maharaja Ashtodharashata Shishman Shri Bhakti Priyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jagat Guru Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Prabhupada Subhadra ki jai. Mahabhagava Shri Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Saptam Goswami Sachidananda Shri Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Govinda Church Shri Baldev Vijibhushan Prabhu ki jai. Shri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. Shri Nartham Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Trai ki jai. Shri Krishna Ras Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shri Goswami ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Ramanandari Gaur Parshada Vrinda ki jai. Jai Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Antari Mayapur Simantari Kodrumari Madhuri Kaladri Ritari Janadri Madhuri Prudari Varmaka Shri Navadri Dham ki jai. Sachi Mata ki jai. Jagannath Vishwa ki jai. Vishnu ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Radha Shubhanamaka Shri Braja Mandala ki jai. Shri Shama Kunda Radha Kund Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Yogamaya Purnamasi Devi ki jai. Vrinda Devi Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Vishwar Mahadev ki jai. Dalita Vishaka Aryasha Saki Vrinda ki jai. Manjari Rati Manjari Ari Manjari Vrinda ki jai. Yamuna ki jai. Govardhan ki jai. Shoramaya ki jai. Nandababa ki jai. Vrinda ki jai. Vishwavana Maharaj ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Ji ki jai. Shri Mandala Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Shingadev Bhagavan ki jai. Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nanda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premananda.